Hi, my name is Medina Shova. I attend a STEM school with a small fine arts program, so much of the experimentation and art I create is done outside of the classroom environment. My inspiration comes from the media and the world around me. I would best describe my art as a combination of older techniques mixed with new ideas, and I'm always looking for new ways to create art.
The title of this piece is Conversation. Media is in Prismacolor pencils, Sharpie, and acrylic paint. 2017. Dimensions of the piece are 45.4 centimeters by 24 centimeters. The name is Conversation because of the two figures in the piece. One is speaking to the other while the second figure is not listening. The idea for this piece came from a class assignment where we had to do a blind contour drawing. In my free time, I decided to go back to the sketch and start shading it in gradients to create form. I liked the final result of my sketch, so when I got home, I redid the blind contour with new figures, but this time I used color instead of graphite. One figure is primarily in blue tones and the other in violet, so I made the background in yellow and orange, which is the figure's complementary colors. Contrast is a major aspect of this piece because not only is there contrast in color, but also contrast in shape and form. The gaudy faces are composed of geometric shapes, which differ greatly with the free-flowing background. In the background, slight lines are visible, which represent the conversation. Originally, I planned on using these Sharpie lines and coloring them in with warm colors with colored pencils, but the use of geometric shapes for both the foreground and background and the same media used throughout lacked contrast and didn't make the figure stand out. I later went back with acrylic paint to layer warm colors and blend them to create free form for the contrast I was looking for. Certain features of the girls are in realistic shading and with dimension, while other features are left in flat planes, such as the hair in a mosaic pattern. And this was a choice to add a variety of planes for further contrast.
This piece is titled Candlelight. Media is in acrylic paint, 2017, and the dimensions are 45.5 by 30.5 centimeters. This piece was inspired by the contemporary artist Dave McKean, who's an illustrator for children's books. This piece has some Baroque period characteristics, such as the use of chiaroscuro with strong contrast of colors. The subject of this piece is a man playing the violin while sitting next to a candlelight. The candlelight provides for the contrast of the piece, where the left side of the figure is lit up and more defined than the darker side of the face. Key characteristics of this piece includes the use of sgraffito and limited color scheme of yellow, blue, and brown to create atmosphere, which is also another feature of Baroque art. The use of sgraffito technique was done using a Metro card. I chose to use a Metro card instead of a typical art supply like paintbrush or palette knife to create expressive texture and movement throughout the piece. I also chose to use an ordinary household object instead of an art supply because I believe greater art is created through everyday objects. The rugged texture that is created through the use of a Metro card results in a contrast with the refined features of the lit up parts of the face. This is a piece that incorporates older techniques of art from the Baroque period with modern characteristics of contemporary art, such as an animated like face. The title of this sculpture is Lost Party. Media is mixed. Year is 2017, and dimensions are 12 inches by 12 inches by 10 inches. This piece was inspired by my grandmother's story. While in Uzbekistan in 2015, before my grandmother passed away, she told us stories about her children. She had 9 of them, but only 6 are alive today. Living in the countryside, there was little medical help, and many died young from diseases. I decided to make a birthday cake to represent the lost birthdays that a childhood death leaves behind. The cake is made out of plaster. The base is built on a plastic container, with the second level being a cookie tin. For construction, I use plaster for the base, silicone caulk for smoothing over, and an all-purpose joint compound. For decorations, I use supplies that you would use normally in preparing cake, such as a decorating bag and tips. The white lilies are commonly used as funeral flowers and represents purity of the soul restored and the innocence of a child. The candles are colorful, with glitter to represent the child's life. The candles have a burnt, but not all the way to the bottom, which means the full life of the child was cut short. The buttons in the middle of the cake are not glued down, because they represent playful, tactile objects of all sizes and color, much like a child's personality of curiosity and fun. If one wished, they could grab one and take it with them to remind them of the meaning of the piece. The idea of the piece could have been made into a 2D piece, but I chose to make it into a sculpture because it occurs in your plane. Along with it being a 3D piece, it is also a performance piece. I lit these candles and watched them melt to represent the duration of a child's life. The candles didn't melt at the same pace, and at the end were at different heights, representing the unpredictability of life. Finally, it's life size, not miniature. It's a real cake, much like a real issue that affects parents everywhere.